Good evening to the beautiful people of Trinidad and Tobago. To all my friends and colleagues who are here this evening, but more importantly to all of those who are listening on the radio and looking on TV. Let me remind, just 5 short years ago, the Congress of the People came to the defense of this nation called Trinidad and Tobago. A party that had 5 years, not 5 years actually, 3 years before, had put itself forward in 41 constituencies throughout the length and breadth. In 2010, we came together with our partners, contracting ourselves because we knew full well that we needed to work together to ensure that this nation be saved from the very evil things that were before us. Tonight, I'm not here to remind you as much of the economic decline that we were in, of the horrific levels of crime, of the desecration of our schools, and the disrespect that all of the nation was shown when the government of the day indicated they wanted to give us things, do things unto us, and we had no say as to what or where or how these things should be done. The Congress of the People took the hardest fight in this nation. As our lot was, we fought all of the hardest seats along the east-west corridor. Of course, St. Augustine was given to the COP by our partners as an act of goodwill so that the leader of the COP shall have a safe seat. But let me just remind you that that battle we fought, many thought we would not have survived. Many thought we would not have succeeded, but succeed we did. And we put into place a government that, as you have heard all of tonight from the best political platform in Trinidad and Tobago, I ask you to give them a round of applause, of what this government has achieved, and I assure you it is only but a fraction of what we've actually achieved that you were told of tonight. We believe in a society that is equitable, where no man, woman, or child will ever feel discriminated against. What a small country we have, with small minds by many who believe that they are better than others, and many others who feel that they are inferior to many. Where every group in the society felt discriminated against. Imagine that. In a society of 1.3 million and 2,000 square miles, almost every segment of the society felt discriminated against. And we worked to fix that thing of discrimination, that sense of alienation, where every corner of this nation, east, west, north, south, central, and in Tobago, felt the hand of a loving government, where the resources of the nation was finally used to the benefit of the people. It is not for me to tell you how many grounds have been lit. It is not just to put light on darkness. It is about creating community space where our old, our young, and the communities could finally come together in a very healthy environment where the exercise of the day breeds a healthy mind in a healthy body. It is not for me to remind you that every health center in this nation has been upgraded with extended opening hours. It is not for me tonight to remind you that for years, 40-odd years, a promise to the people of Arouca is being fulfilled in this term for a hospital. It is not for me to remind you of the children's hospital that is being built in Central, nor for the first world teaching hospital in San Fernando. It is not for me to remind you of the 400 plus vehicles that this government gave to the police service of Trinidad and Tobago. It is not for me tonight to remind you of the thousands of new police officers that we put on the beat. And that is why we have not said it, the police themselves have said it, that serious crime has dropped in some places up to 60% and in others 40%, an almost miraculous thing. But of course, murders are still a scourge that we must deal with. And we are putting in place other things to deal with that. It is not for me to tell you that not a single worker in this country has had to be laid off from the government. It is not for me to remind you that no wage has yet been reduced. It is not for me to remind you that people now have a hope to have a home, to have land, to have a future to build upon. We believe that this is a nation because of God's given wealth to us, where not everyone may be rich, but no one need be poor. I ask of you, members of the Congress of the People, you have been strong for long, and I ask you to be stronger for longer. Because before us now is a great challenge, an evil challenge of an alignment of forces of failure that want to see us return to a desolate state where discrimination once again is the order of the day. where corruption is at all-time high and no question could be asked. Tonight we have with us Bo Tiwari. Congratulations, my brother. You have brought the procurement legislation that many thought was only talk, but we delivered on these things. There are problems in the society, yes, we acknowledge these things. But we know full well as mere mortals, I have to make that comment, because when we came in, there was such a prayer for deliverance that many believe that the government of the People's Partnership will be almost angelic, that we will be almost godlike. We are only human. And amongst us were the weaknesses of our human brothers and sisters. Of course, we have made mistakes. We have made several mistakes, sometimes serious, sometimes unwittingly. One thing you do know, that this is a government that acknowledges its errors. When a mistake is made, we say we've done so, and when the time for action was necessary, the Prime Minister, on the prodding many times of the COP, has acted to the benefit of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It is not for me to tell you of the danger of the return of the old way, because where the oil and gas prices have dipped, you cannot replace a government that has shown success with a people that has known only failure. You look and see Dr. Rowley, and I do not really want to speak much of him tonight, because this is a very wonderful evening, and I do not wish to pollute it. However, it is important for us to acknowledge what we face and what we must deal with. Listen, this man made an allegation of the most serious kind against the former Attorney General, that when he went to New York, he made a racist comment in the People's Embassy, the people of Trinidad and Tobago's embassy. It turns out the Attorney General never even went. That was a failure. You have heard about the email, and I want to develop that point a little bit. And I could go through, and I will spend maybe an entire evening telling you of this man's failure. He has failed on almost everything, but he wants to lead. Do you want to be led by failure? No. Do you want to be led by success? Yes. Do you want a nation that sees its true value and its true worth finally blossoming before us? 5 short years is a very short time to change a nation, but we've done so much, not just in infrastructure, but in the soul of the nation. Years ago, when Lincoln and I stood together and we fasted to save the soul of this nation, we knew what we were dealing with. There was an enlightenment that came upon us, that the one thing that needed to change in the nation more than anything else was the leadership. Well, leadership is led by love and care, by commitment and dedication, and not just by those who take power and use it as a weapon, not as a tool to help our people. And we have now delivered the nation into a new government, and we face a big challenge going into this election. As I repeat, Dr. Rowley, I give him the respect of a Dr. Rowley, has failed on every single thing that he has set up himself about. He destroyed his own party almost before the elections of 2010. Remember this, right? Where he threw out basically an attack to his leader just before the election so that he could rise out of the carcass of the PNM. Having lost the election, they chased their leader like an old dog out of Balize House. I heard for it, because no matter what, you do not treat people like that. He was chased from there. And there's a mob-like mentality that has emanated and has taken control of a once great institution called the PNM. You see it when out of the parliament, when we were debating the constitutional amendment, members of parliament were ridiculed and abused physically in some way, and certainly by verbal abuse. And this is what attracts that level of mob to the People's Parliament, Dr. Rowley and what he stands for. When they march in this nation, not to bring about good change, but to bring down a duly elected government, creating instability in the environment, knowing full well that when you have instability, political instability, what you do is you damage the economy. But against all that, the economy has lifted. That is not easy. When I hear my brother, Dr. Samuel, speak, he speaks not from his words coming from his head, but he speaks from something deeper from his heart. And that is what the COP stands for. Whatever we do from our heart, because it is built and it is determined from an inner call to serve our brothers and sisters, knowing full well that you cannot be comfortable and happy in your home if your neighbor is hungry and desolate in his home. And therefore we believe, as I repeat, a rising tide shall lift all ships, and that is what we have set ourselves to be. We wish to give an opportunity for everyone, so that by education, and you've heard the many great things we've done in education, because it is truly the passport to your future. a highest priority of his government, as there are many highest priorities, health being one, education being the other, security being another, the economy being another. We believe the highest priorities in all these things for a successful nation. But let me get to the challenge. Dr. Rowley, 2 years ago, went in the People's Parliament and spoke and read into the Hansard, the People's Parliament, the highest office of this land, what is clearly fabricated email. It is without a doubt. What he did there, he made allegations against the Prime Minister and other senior office holders of conspiracy to murder, conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, misbehavior in public office. My brothers and sisters, those of us in our homes, listening on the radio and looking on TV, conspiracy to murder carries a penalty found guilty of life imprisonment. Conspiracy to pervert the course of justice carries, if found guilty, a penalty of life imprisonment. Misbehavior in public office carries with it a penalty found guilty of life imprisonment. And there were many other things. But these are the allegations he made against a sitting prime minister on the basis of some piece of document that he received in his mailbox or whatever. It was obvious to many that it could not be true in the first day or two. But 2 years after, they're still holding on to this fallacy, this fabrication, as if it were true. Now, I am not saying for a moment that Dr. Rowley fabricated it. But he must have known that something was wrong if we are to believe what he said. He received it and kept it for 6 months without telling anyone, without going to the police, making a report anywhere. And in that document was the allegation that they were planning to hurt or to kill a reporter. If he believed it, what would a responsible human being do? Not to even to remember as leader of the opposition. What would you do? You would go to the police. But as a leader of the opposition, he had an even higher duty to ensure that he took action on it, but he sat on it for 6 months. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, logically, he did not believe it, but he did not care. He put it before the People's Parliament so that the entire world heard that the Attorney General, senior ministers, and the Prime Minister conspired to do these evil things. What has happened since? The Prime Minister and a team, they have taken steps to clear their name because the innocent want to be cleared as soon as is possible. If an allegation is made against you, wouldn't you want to have your name cleared as soon as possible? They waited and they waited and they went through the court system in America, and a few weeks ago, a short few days ago, they got word from the Department of Justice through Google that no emails emanated, this is what I am informed, through any Google account. Therefore, it is as if you are the holder of a bridge. Nothing passes on that bridge without you having to say yes or no. You have a camera on it so you will see all those who pass. Google checked. They checked and there was no such email. That have been given to the Prime Minister and her team, or by whatever form or fashion, that document having come into existence. What do? They go to the public and say, we have been cleared. Today, and I didn't want to go there, but as a lawyer, I am compelled to do it. Today, the headline says, PM and AG not yet cleared, from a statement from the DPP's office. Now, I respect the DPP's office. I respect them, they are independent, and we have, as a system of law, to respect what they have to say. But I do not have to agree. I do not have to agree. As far as I recall, every citizen here, man, woman, and child, is presumed innocent until proven guilty. There has not been a single charge laid against anyone. There have been only fabricated allegations made against these people. And I want to tell you, I have to stand here because I'm a member of the People's Partnership. And as the good things we have heard, we must also deal with the bad things, because together we are in this for good, for bad, but for the best for Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why I will take the time. Forgive me, please. The presumption of innocence. How could it be then said that they've not been cleared? Cleared of what? An allegation? When in fact it is proven to everyone that there is no such legitimacy to the email. But yet, as I remember, this is an election year. We are in partnership. Colleagues, the Prime Minister, serious allegations hang over our head. But do we have to wait for a final outcome when the obvious thing is before us that it could not be real? Are we to suppress, or are they to suppress the truth based on somebody else's timeline? I've heard it said, wait for the police investigation to be concluded. I don't have a problem with that, but then I remember Calder Hart. 5 years ago, the Congress of the People went to the DPP and gave him information and the police to investigate this thing. That investigation, as simple as it is, has not yet been concluded. Not yet been concluded. I was a lawyer. You all remember Sadiq Bach, the water tank. Yeah? 5 kilograms of cocaine and mortars, explosives in the man water tank. That investigation concluded yet? All you remember how many years ago that was? Let me remind you, 13 years. So if we had to sit down like Kunumunu and wait, an election come, and those allegations are still hanging over the head, and you've seen headline, they're not cleared. We're going into election with this awful thing hanging. Are we not entitled, as Roger told us the other day in the Parliament, to defend ourselves? And I say ourselves because we are People's Partnership. And what affects the Prime Minister affects us. So while I respect the DPP, I want to say they get it a little bit wrong. I've dealt with these people in court, and they're not superhuman. They're not beyond mistake, and they're not beyond error. The presumption of innocence, remember that too? Remember that? And two, give me a timeline when this thing is going to end. The day after election? Because what worries me a whole lot is Mr. Al-Rawi, from a few weeks ago or whatever, started saying this thing ain't done. When the evidence came that the emails were fabricated, did not pass through Google, therefore could not have existed, it had done. Well, why would you say that? But then I had to start remembering what they did with Sadiq. Set him up. What they did with Pandey. That man, the former Prime Minister, went to jail, convicted by the Chief Magistrate, and the evidence on a matter of record discloses that a former Attorney General, then Attorney General, and the Treasurer of the PNM colluded to get that conviction in some way. You have forgotten these things. Have we also forgotten that the sitting Chief Justice of this country, carloads of police officers went to his home on a Friday evening to lock him up and throw him in a jail? And what happened to that case? When it came to court, the chief witness refused to give evidence. We have a long, bitter history of mischievous police action. Forgive me, I'm not for a moment suggesting anything, but I have to be alert. And I learned a long time ago, if you suspect or you smell something going wrong, put a light on it. Trinidad and Tobago, put a light on what is going on with that email investigation. There are several things that could happen. One, we go into the elections without the conclusion by the Police or the Integrity Commission. Therefore, you have the allegations. Or two, you never know. Some charge could emanate from it. So beware. But we are resilient and we are strong. And that is why we in the Congress of the People have been fearless. Lincoln was with me when we walked into Rich Plain. Lincoln, you remember that? When soldiers were abusing and beating people there, one of their own having been murdered. And under the eyes and under the scope of machine guns, we walked into that army camp and asked them boldly, who sent you here? The Congress of the People has never been afraid, nor will we ever have fear in our hearts, because we know what we stand for is right and good, and God will always be on our side. As we prepare ourselves to this next election, as you know full well, the party has opened up its nomination process, so that for all citizens from every corner of this land, from every profession, from every economic strata, from every color, clad, or creed, you are invited, if you wish to serve your nation, to put forward your name for nomination. We have changed the politics in this country, where now everyone who attempts to enter politics knows that they will be under a microscope. If you do wrong, you will not be permitted to go forward. If we discover after you've gone forward that you have done wrong, we ask you to please go. That is a new politics that we've always spoken about. And as our deputy political leader has told you, we are now about the politics of the future. Because we believe, apart from all the infrastructural developments, we need to change the way we think and do things. And therefore, in the Congress of the People, not any crapo could come. Because we have a checklist of things that you must agree to, that your conduct must be exemplary. You must be honorable in your dealings, not just now, but in your past. You must be a person of integrity. You must be a person who, as my father would always say, your word is your bond. And if it's one thing they could say about the COP, we have been a party of integrity. We have been a party of consistency. We have been a party of honor. We have been a party of straightforwardness. They could have no better ally in the political environment than the COP. And the partnership is lucky to have had all of us, as we are lucky to have had all of them. We move forward now as we proceed to the selection of candidates of the future. The candidates of the future will be the leaders of tomorrow. And by making proper determinations today, we will have a better leadership for tomorrow. So that this chart, this course of improvement and uplift for all of our citizens must not be interrupted by the failure for us to appreciate the propaganda and the strength of the mischief of our enemies, of the failed numbers. I want to warn you that this level of propaganda has been going for so long that many take it for granted that a lot of it is true. But as Roger said, if you had evidence, go and talk to the police. That's a true statement. Do not make allegations without facts. Do not make allegations, and when proof is called upon, you're no longer there. Because then no one is safe. Judge us on our performance, what we promised, what we have delivered. Judge us on what we have done, and not what others promised to do. Because when they had the chance of the past, they have always failed us. My friends, as I say, as I close, this is a great party. This is a great nation. But we have a great challenge. You have risen to it before. It is going to be harder this time around. And as I repeat this, and I want you to remember it, we have been strong for long. I ask you to be stronger for longer. God bless our nation. God bless all of us. Thank you very much.